About 4 years ago, I was ending my freshman year at college. I had lived in the dorms with a nice roommate and pretty much had a great experience altogether. Towards the end of my last semester, something seemed different in my hall of the dorms. We were all still our lively selves, but just walking into the dorms would give you this massive feeling of dread. We all wrote it off as the stress of finals approaching, but it just felt off. Well, one night after studying, I decided to hit the shower so I could just wake up and make my way to class in a few hours. Before I keep on going, I should go ahead and set the layout of our hall and the bathroom. Our hall was one of many halls on a single floor. Each hall had 4 rooms that accommodated 2 people each. The entrance to the halls were massive steel doors with a small window located at one end, and across from it was the bathroom. It seriously felt like a prison block rather than living quarters for college students. As for the bathroom itself, when you walked in, you were immediately met with 2 sets of sinks on your left and right, with massive mirrors facing each other, creating that infinite loop of mirrors. This was the place that still haunts me in my nightmares. The door of the bathroom was identical to the entrance to the hall, a massive steel frame with a small window that didn't allow for much of a view. The door was popped open with a giant wooden wedge that couldn't be moved unless you were really trying to close it. So, back to the story. I was all alone in the bathroom, gearing up to go shower. I throw my change of clothes on the right side sink, so that way I can reach around the stall and grab them. Once I set my stuff down, I happen to look up into the mirror, and I see in the distance of the infinite loop something almost shimmering inside. As I look at it, I notice that it's slowly getting closer and closer, like it's jumping from the furthermost layer to the next. I'm kind of unsettled, but I don't think much of it, other than me coming down off a massive Red Bull, Adderall and caffeine kick, but it starts transitioning faster. As it gets closer, I can start making out details, but nothing vivid or striking. It's just a dark mass that looks like it's covered in hair. At this point, I'm freaking out hardcore, since this thing is getting closer in the mirror and I'm pretty much frozen to this one spot. As it gets to the 4th layer, I get the closest look at this thing I'll ever get, and I regret every minute of it. It wasn't hair, but a flowering veil. You could see through it partially, but from the torso down, it was just solid black. And the face, I can't describe it. It was clearly human, but at the same time, it was so far removed. There were eyes, they were black, but definitely glowing somehow. I only saw this for maybe a second at the most, but it's burned into my mind forever. Then the lights cut out and I hear the door slam. It's pitch black in the bathroom, so I can't see this thing anymore. I go to open the door, but it won't budge. And then this intense smell of blood hits me out of nowhere. And that's all I can remember. I woke up later in the hospital. From what my warden claims, he was on his way to go and use the bathroom sometime after this happened, where he found me in the shower stall with my shirt covered in blood from a massive nosebleed. He tried asking me what happened, and according to him, all I could respond with was, "It saw me." And I started freaking out. So he calls an ambulance and they get me to the hospital. All the while I'm apparently freaking out, so they had to use a sedation to calm me down. Around the time my parents showed up, worried sick of course, I asked them what happened, and according to the doctors, they believe I had a seizure. However, they ran CAT scans soon after I was cooperative enough to do so and found no sign of any seizure occurring. Not to mention epilepsy doesn't run in my family at all, and having taken Adderall countless times in the past, I've never had a similar side effect, neither hallucinations or potential seizures. To this day, I still can't bring myself to look into a mirror for more than a minute, and just being stuck in a room with one for an extended period of time will just cause me to break down. I've been going to therapy 3 years because of this, and I've talked to countless religious leaders who, besides giving me the general, "Well, you should turn to God in times like these," talks. "Don't recognize that kind of pattern as anything demonic or evil." And the strangest thing is that before that incident, there were no actual claims of activity in those dorms, and since I left, there hasn't been any either. It was just that one isolated incident. Lucky me. I had a stalker for about 2 years. It started at my first apartment when I was 18. He would do little stuff like stand on my porch and tap on the windows or walk around the backyard. What creeped me the most was the fact that he always had this wide grin on his face whenever I saw him. Frustrated, I called the cops one day. They checked it out and couldn't find any trace of him. I too didn't see him creeping around for a couple of weeks and finally convinced myself that he wouldn't be a problem now. After about 6 months, my boyfriend and I decided to go and see a concert out of town. We left our dogs in the basement and asked my brother to come by a few times a day to let the dogs out and feed them. When we got home, things started getting weird. I should mention 3 things. 1, my bedroom had the door to the attic in it, with one of those chain locks on it. 2, the next door apartment was abandoned. And 3, we never went into the attic because it had holes in the floor. At night, we started hearing noises in the attic. It sounded like footsteps and the dogs would growl at the door all night. We didn't find out what the noises were until we moved out. We went up there to get our Christmas decorations and someone had broken the brick and walls apart that separated the 2 apartments. The other apartments had a bed in the attic and other miscellaneous stuff. We called the cops again and nothing strange happened for about 4 months. After those 4 months, things went really bad all of a sudden. Initially, our dog started coming up missing, and the house would look like it was being rooted through. The bad thing about the new house was that the side door didn't lock, so my boyfriend nailed the door shut. One night when I was coming back from the gym, there was a guy outside on the road who starts saying my name again and again and ran towards me. I was panicked and instantly locked the front door and called the cops. As I was talking to them, I heard a loud, creepy laugh from the other side of the door, followed by the footsteps running away from the house. I reported this to the cops, and they assured me that they will show up in a minute if that guy comes back. But thankfully, it didn't happen. After all these incidents, one day my boyfriend had to work until midnight, and my roommate couldn't be home until about 6 a.m, so I was home alone for 3 hours. Since I'm scared to sleep alone, I locked all the doors and turned on every single light in the house. About an hour after falling asleep, I was awakened by the sound of someone forcibly opening my door. I got up and everything is in darkness. Someone had turned the main switch off. I heard the same sound again and dashed out the window instantly. Fortunately, there was a cop car passing by and I screamed for help. The officers went inside my house and caught the intruder, still trying to open my bedroom door. He had a knife with him and later admitted that he wanted to kill me. During his sentence, he was sent to a mental asylum as he wasn't mentally stable, but even the thought of what he might have done if I wouldn't have gotten up that night still sends a chill down my spine. Being followed or watched is creepy, but believe me, when the stalker is mentally unstable too, it's your life that's at stake. Back in high school, I entered a summer program at a college in a nearby city. You basically stay there for several weeks and take classes and do fun stuff, but there was plenty of time to goof off and run around the city. Well, there was an old factory building in the city that had been abandoned God knows how long ago. I don't even know what the factory was for. My friends and I decided to go and explore this factory. It was summer, but we dressed in jeans and hoodies to protect ourselves for whatever mess we might find in there. There were so many windows, and all of them were broken. We even bought some spray paint, because we were that cool, without the slightest idea how dangerous that place was. So, we found a way to get in, since many of the doorways were boarded up. It was cool inside. You could see where reception desks were and stuff. There was graffiti everywhere, and a hole was knocked into a nearby wall. We headed through that hole, looking for a way to get upstairs. There were some homemade skating ramps and stuff inside this big main area. Obviously this place is an abandoned factory, but plenty of people still sneak in. We found the stairs and headed up. The second floor was mainly wrecked from fire damage. Yet another cool building ditched after a fire. We started taking pictures while some of us had fun with spray paint, but suddenly, our camera battery started dying. My camera was fully charged, but it started going dead within minutes. Our phones lost charge as well, getting dangerously low. It was a bit unnerving, but we continued on. There were a lot of trashed rooms with paper everywhere, and dark rooms that we couldn't explore without a flashlight. We came across one room that was just a pitch black pit. The floor was gone and we couldn't see how deep the hole went. One of my friends suddenly screamed, saying she saw a face in the office window nearby. None of us saw it, and maybe she was seeing things, but we were feeling a bit uncomfortable. As we went deeper and deeper in, there was less graffiti. Other fellow trespassers hadn't gone as far as we were going. It was a really long building. We started hearing stuff shifting, like odd noises from the darker rooms and stuff. I went into one office and found this little metal computer piece or something. I have no idea what it was, but it looked cool. I pocketed it, wanting a souvenir of this trip. Then we headed into the next big room. There were torn apart animals everywhere. There were pieces of cats, dogs, dead rats, birds. It was disgusting. It looked like there were fires nearby and weird stuff drawn in charcoal, most likely violent or demented people trying to be edgy. But we knew that we were not supposed to see any of that. We decided this was a good time to go. We quickly headed out the way we came, but stuff seemed to be moving in the corners of our eyes. Maybe it was just fear, but we heard some more shifting noises, and they were louder. We got out and headed back to the dorms. Very tired and very freaked out. We decided to not call the cops because then we'd have to admit that we were trespassing. I went to bed that night, still thinking about all those poor animals. For the next several nights, I had nightmares. I dreamed that I was burning. In another, I was running around in that factory. One night, I woke up and saw a shadow standing in front of the door to my dorm room. It was edging closer, and I was frozen in fear. I managed to bury my head under the pillow and I cried myself to sleep. The next morning, I went back to the factory with one friend and tossed that metal piece I found back inside. My nightmares stopped from then on. I've visited several abandoned buildings like that, but I always get a gut feeling that there was something seriously wrong with that building. Maybe the animals were killed in some satanic activity or something like that. I just don't want to see any place like that. Not ever again.